Hello music fans, welcome to the Death by Unicorn channel. I recently put up my top 50 albums of 2022 and I said if that got more than 120 views in the first week that I'd post my number 51 through 100, and it just squeaked by. I think it got like just over 130 views in the first week, so I gotta make good on my promise, even though it means a bit more work for me. But I listened to a lot of music this year. I think I'm up to 330 new albums that I heard this year. So even my top 100, everything in there is really stellar. It's better than my top like one in every three that I listen to. And I think there's a lot in here that's worth checking out. I focus on the metal, rock, and progressive music genres, but every now and then I might sprinkle in something that's a little bit outside of that. Without further ado, let's jump in with number 100, which is Fallujah with Empyrean, which is technical death metal with progressive and deathcore influences. It's their fifth album. Very cool, intricate compositions, great guitar playing and drumming, mostly death growl vocals, but some parts with singing. A lot of nice, soft, atmospheric and melodic instrumental sections, so it's not just fast, chaotic death metal the whole time. Number 99, I have Revocation with Nether Heaven. This is also technical death metal. It's their eighth album. Also really great guitar playing, pretty comparable to the Fallujah release from the same day. But they're pretty even, but I kind of edged this one out as a bit better than the other one. Number 98, I have Motorpsycho with Ancient Astronauts. This is progressive rock. It's their 25th album. Just 4 tracks, but it's a 43-minute album, so you know there's some long epic prog tracks on here. The last one's a 22-minute prog epic. For fans of bands like the Deer Hunter, because it's got a bit of that indie rock vibe in there with the prog. Number 97, I have Black Midi with Hellfire. This is experimental progressive art rock with some jazz and some post-punk influences. It's their third album. Very quirky. A lot of the vocals sound like they're in between spoken word, rap, and jazz scatting. It's cool, unique, and innovative music and production going on here. I think this is even better than their last album, Cavalcade. It's really hard to compare this band to anybody, so I think you just need to hear it to know what it sounds like. Number 96, I've got Black Country New Road with Ants from Up There. This is post-rock with pop, experimental jazz, prog, and art rock influences. It's their second album. Also strange, experimental, quirky, artsy, kind of jazzy post-rock. It reminds me of the Black Midi release. A bit more like their 2021 release though. But this is weird even by my standards. At number 95, I've got Cave In with Heavy Pendulum. And this is progressive sludge metal with stoner rock, post-metal, and space rock influences. It's their seventh album, and it's solid progressive sludge metal for fans of The Ocean, Cult of Luna, and Mastodon. At number 94, I have Android with Another Midnight Ball, and this is progressive rock, kind of the neo-prog flavor. It's the fifth album by this Hungarian band, and this is a reimagining and revisiting and re-recording of their album from 2011 that was called Midnight Ball, and it's really well done recording. Number 93, I have Alter Bridge with Pawns and Kings. This is hard rock with heavy metal, alternative, grunge, and progressive influences. It's their seventh album, and Miles Kennedy is just a legendary hard rock vocalist. He's played in Slash's backing band. Mark Tremonti is in this band. He's a legendary guitarist who played in Creed. And together with their bandmates, they just make great rock music. It's melodic and epic. There's nothing too offensive sounding on here, so it's really accessible and ready for radio. There's no screaming or anything like that. But some of it is progressive at times. They use odd time signatures. They change time signatures between 7/8 and 4/4 and other things like that. At number 92, I've got Lorna Shore with Pain Remains. This is deathcore. It's their fourth album. Will Ramos is one of the most intense, harsh vocalists of this decade. He's got a lot of range in his high shrieks and low gutturals and pig squeals and other general animal and monster sounding noises that come out of his mouth. And there's also some great symphonic elements in here, spread out throughout all the chaotic breakdowns and things that you would expect from deathcore. Number 91, I've got Comedy of Errors with their album Time Machine. This is progressive rock. It's their 5th album. And there were some interesting classical music references on here. The second track references Beethoven's 5th and 9th symphonies. Number 90, I've got Derek Sherinian with Vortex. This is instrumental progressive rock with a little sprinkle of metal in there. It's his 9th album. He's the former Dream Theater keyboard player. His playing and compositions are amazing. He got some great guest collaborators on here like Steve Lukather, Zach Wilde, Bumblefoot, and more. Number 89, I've got Imperial Triumphant with Spirit of Ecstasy. This is avant-garde, technical, dissonant, blackened death metal with jazz influences. It's their 5th album, very avant-garde and strange, but very interesting. It's jazzy, but also really dissonant and heavy. It's got harsh vocals. Cool guest spots on here too from Snake, the vocalist of Voivod, Alex Skolnick, the guitarist from Testament, and Kenny G, the saxophone legend. This band is unique and very hard to compare to anybody. And number 88, I've got Destrage with So Much Too Much. This is their 6th album, also quirky and all over the place genre-wise. Hard to describe, but very fun and weird. One song on this featured Devin Townsend. This album is just... the album title kind of hints at what this album feels like. It does feel like So Much Too Much a bit, but it's very engaging and impressive. Some parts are gent, some are acoustic, some are electronic, some are brutal, some are poppy and catchy. There are breakdowns, a little bit of everything. They have a cover of the Stone Temple's Pilot song Vaseline on here as well. Number 87, I've got Marathon with Unseen Color. This is progressive rock with pop and a little bit of metal influence in there. It's the 2nd album by this Norwegian band. They don't do any screams from what I recall. Their sound's a bit closer to progressive pop than rock even. Pretty poppy and catchy songs. They remind me of the recent Leprous release. If you're a fan of newer Leprous, you might like this. Number 86, I've got Pattern Seeking Animals with Only Passing Through. And this is progressive rock. It's their 3rd album, a solid prog rock release. I don't think it's quite as good as their last one, but it's still pretty good. And number 85, I've got Carthagin with Land of Green and Gold. This is symphonic progressive art rock. It's their 13th album. This is mostly instrumental, but one song, I think at least one song has some vocal parts. It's very jazzy, kind of reminds me of Yes and Wobbler. Keyboards on here are really great. Number 84, I've got Avatarium with Death, Where Is Your Sting? This is progressive rock with doom metal and heavy metal influences. It's their 5th album, and I never listened to an album by this band before this, but I listened to their some of their older stuff after this, and it's all great too. And this band features Jenny Ann Smith on vocals. It's always good to hear some female vocals on progressive music. And the band was founded by the Candlemass songwriter Leif Edling, but he's no longer part of the band. This music is epic and dark sounding. If you're a fan of Black Sabbath, Ghost, and Blue Oyster Cult, but if those bands leaned a little bit more into their progressive side and had more symphonic and ambient elements, that's kind of what this sounds like. Also for fans of Catatonia and Oceans of Slumber, but you won't hear any screaming vocals on here. It's all nice, beautiful singing. Number 83, I've got Odd Land with Vermilion. This is progressive metal. It's their 3rd album. Clean vocals remind me of Opeth. The guitars and drums have a gent vibe and tone to them a lot of the time, so kind of imagine Periphery meets Opeth. Number 82, we've got the Flower Kings with By Royal Decree. This is progressive rock. It's their 15th album. It's a nice 70s prog vibe with some modern touches. For fans of Transatlantic, it features Roy Nestalt, who's also involved with that project. Number 81, I've got Greg Puciato with Mirror Cell. This is experimental alternative metal with industrial, grunge, synthwave, extreme metal, and pop influences. It's his 2nd album. It's all over the place genre-wise as expected from him. It's very powerful and hardcore in places, but melodic and catchy in others. At number 80, I've got Afterlapse with Face the Storm. This is progressive metal. It's the debut album from this Spanish prog metal band. It's very well done and melodic. It's all singing vocals, no screaming here, so for fans of bands like Dream Theater who do that progressive metal with no harsh vocals. Now I want to talk about Dirt Poor Robins. That's my number 79 with their album Queen of the Night. This is progressive rock with some cinematic and musical theater vibes to it. It's their 8th album. Great female vocals on this album. It's prog rock, but it leans heavily into the show tunes and musical theaters vibe. And it accompanies a film they made, so it's kind of like a soundtrack. And it's reminiscent of when the Deer Hunter goes into their crooner musical theater show tunes vibe. 78, I've got In the Woods with Diversum. This is progressive metal with avant-garde, atmospheric black metal, traditional heavy metal, and prog rock influences. It's their 6th album. Blends a lot of different styles of metal together in a beautiful emotional ride of an album. The clean vocals sound epic and are really catchy. The screams sound evil and depressed and are somewhere in between black metal and death metal. At number 77, I've got Threshold with Dividing Lines. This is progressive metal, their 12th album. And this band started back in 1988 and put their first album out in the early 90s. But this is actually the first album of theirs that I heard, and they're right up my alley. The whole album is solid. It's that progressive metal, but it doesn't have any extreme metal influences like from metalcore, death metal, or black metal, or anything like that. So if you don't like screaming, this could work for you. It's for fans of bands like Dream Theater, Pain of Salvation, Symphony X. At number 76, I've got Seventh Wonder with The Testament. This is progressive power metal. It's the 6th album from this Swedish band that features Tommy Karavik from Camelot on vocals. The vocals on here are great. The guitar playing's great. If you're a fan of Symphony X, you'll like this. Number 75, I got Norma Jean with Death Rattle Sing For Me. This is metalcore with mathcore and post-hardcore influences. It's their 9th album. It's an excellent metalcore release. And it's great to hear interesting composition and production in the metalcore genre and hear a band doing this style without relying too much on the low-tuned guitars and gent sounds. If you're a fan of Every Time I Die and Under Oath, you'll like this. At number 74, I have Ahavsir with Kosasui. This is progressive sludge metal. Really solid debut album from this lesser-known French band. This is just a great album. They deserve a lot more attention than they have, so check it out. If you're a fan of bands like Baroness, The Ocean, and Mastodon. Number 73, I have Nova Luna with Nova Vita. This is progressive metal. It's another debut album from an Italian melodic progressive metal band. Really solid work for a debut. I'm excited to hear what they do next. They sing in English. You can hear a bit of an accent in their voices. Something about the phrasing of the vocal melodies at the clean singing, it reminds me of choruses from modern In Flames albums. So if you're a fan of that In Flames vocal style or want to hear something that kind of sounds like In Flames and Soilwork meets Dream Theater and Symphony X, you'll like this. My favorite track on this album is called Black Stained Man, and I get chills from the melodic chorus. I just think the vocals there are great. Number 72 is Moontooth with Phototroph. This is progressive metal with hard rock and stoner rock vibes. It's their 3rd album. Really solid prog metal. For fans of Mastodon, I found their guitar tone is similar to Mastodon, I think, or their guitar sound, maybe the way the chords that they play. It also kind of sounds like the Intervals album that has vocals and a little bit like Baroness. So if you like the sounds of that, check out Moontooth. Number 71 is Empire Springs with The Luminescence. This is also progressive metal. It's another amazing debut album. Very catchy, almost emo sounding vocals at times. Number 70 is 0 Hour with Agenda 21. This is progressive metal. A lot of the albums on my list are progressive metal, as you can tell, but we got some other things too. This is their 7th album. Lots of guitar leads and heavier vocals for fans of Protest the Hero, Cynic, Nevermore, and Voivod. Kind of a mix match of those styles, and you get 0 Hour. At number 69, I have a band called O, spelled O-U, with their album One. This is progressive metal. It's the debut album from this Chinese band that signed with Inside Out Music. It's a very unique sound, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where this band goes next. They have a female vocalist. They don't do any harsh vocals. They don't sing in English, so I believe, their lyrics are all in Chinese. I didn't look into whether what variant it is, what language they're speaking. They have a quirky and strange vibe, kind of art rock like Radiohead, but mixed with rhythmic prog metal like Tool. I think they could become a future gem of the prog rock and metal scene. Number 68 is Kasagtha with Revolve. This is progressive metal with melodic death metal and metalcore influences. It's their second album. For fans of Ginger, because they have powerful female vocals with singing and screaming like Ginger does. They have more melodic death metal influences though, so imagine a mix of Ginger with some virtuosic playing like Dream Theater and some melodic death metal vibes like Old, In Flames, and Soilwork. At number 67, I have The Loom of Time with Grand False Callous. This is extreme progressive metal. It's the second album. A lot of extreme, brutal screaming and growling vocals, but also some moments with melodic singing vocals. Lots of intense guitar playing and drumming here. Lots of influences from many subgenres of metal like death, thrash, black, progressive, and symphonic metal. Number 66 is Zeke Sky with his album Intergalactic Demon King. This is progressive metal as well. It's his second album. And this Zeke guy can shred. He plays a mean guitar. He writes some cool prog metal music. In a music video, I saw he's playing fast guitar parts while also singing. And if he can pull that off live, that's impressive multitasking. The guitar playing reminds me of Protest the Hero and the Human Abstract. He sings some great melodic hooks, and he lets out some intense screams from time to time as well. Check it out if you're a fan of Protest the Hero and the Human Abstract. Number 65 is The Offering with Seeing the Elephant. This is progressive metalcore / gent. Got some deathcore, heavy metal, and power metal influences in there too. It's their second album. This sounds really epic, well written and performed. Good vocal delivery, great guitar solos, definitely some wild shredding on here. Guitar riffs are typically genty, but there's also some high-pitched squealing guitar dive bombs. My favorite song on here is Esther Weeps. Number 64 is The Gloom in the Corner with Trinity. This is progressive metalcore / gent with deathcore influences. Also their second album. Really catchy metalcore band. They do some low-tuned, genty guitars. The vocals are impressive. Great singing and screaming. One song features Lauren Babick from Red Handed Denial. Her vocals are always great. I was just really pleasantly surprised by this whole album. Number 63 is Kardashev with Liminal Right. This is atmospheric progressive death metal with deathcore and post-metal influences. It's their second album and a really awesome album. I was tempted to put it in my top 50, but I didn't quite put it there. For fans of bands like An Abstract Illusion and Ne Obliviscaris and Xanthocroid. Number 62 is Chaos Frame with Entropy. This is progressive metal. It's their third album, and they're kind of a lesser known band, but they have great guitar work as well. Number 61 is Virtual Symmetry with their self-titled album. It's their third album. Great guitar work, melodic vocals and hooks. The first track on the album here is a 20-minute prog epic. Number 60 is Without Waves with their album called Comedian. This is experimental progressive metal with mathcore influences. Their second album, and it's great. It has a lot of variety. Some songs are peaceful and beautiful. Other songs are chaotic on the level of the Dillinger Escape Plan. Number 59, I have the Callous Daoboys with Celebrity Therapist. This is mathcore. It's their third album. For fans of the Dillinger Escape Plan, Psyopus, and the number 12 Looks Like You. Just a lot of brutal chaos, but also some fun and cool melodic sections. Number 58, I have O.R.k, or O.R.k. Not sure if they say it out or spell it out. It's like O.R.k. And their album's called Screamnasium. And this is progressive metal. It's the fourth album of this band. They feature former Porcupine Tree bassist Colin Edwin and former King Crimson drummer Pat Mastelotto. Number 57 is Glass Hammer with At the Gate. This is progressive rock. There's some more metal influence on this one though, which was surprising. It's the 20th album from this American band and the third and final album of their Scalagrim trilogy. Number 56 is Pure Reason Revolution with Above Cirrus. This is progressive rock with a little bit of metal in there. It's their fifth album. It's very good. I feel it's even better than their last album, which is also good. This features both male and female lead vocals, has a lot of duet parts. There's some chugging guitar parts on here and grooves, but then other moments are more driven by synthesizers. There's no harsh vocals here, so this is a good one for people that don't like that. At number 55, I have The Chemical Mind with their album GLOSSOLALIA. This is atmospheric progressive black metal with electronic influences. It's the third album from this American act. It's a one-man black metal project by Nick Kruger. I don't think this is as good as the second album that he put out under this project, but it's interesting to hear some more electronic stuff on this. And you know it's good black metal if I end up enjoying it, because I don't usually like a lot of black metal. At number 54, I've got Elephant Gym with Dreams. This is Mathrock. It's their third album. It's very relaxing, chill, but technical and interesting math rock from this band from Taiwan. Number 53, I have Dur in Grey with their album Phalaris. This is avant-garde progressive metal with alternative, death, gothic, and new metal influences. It's their 11th album. They're an amazing Japanese prog metal band that has some screams, some clean singing. Number 52 is Teramaze with Flight of the Wounded. This is progressive metal. It's their 10th album. It's very melodic and catchy prog metal. And I'm surprised I hadn't heard this band before, but when I heard this one, I immediately went back and started listening to some of their older albums. Those are great too. The guitar sounds a bit like Periphery on this, but a bit less djenty. Keyboards and guitar solos sound great, reminiscent of Dream Theater. The vocals are well executed, powerful, emotional, and melodic. The only negative I have about this one is I think their lyrics are a bit too overtly Christian, and they stand out as a bit kind of lame and cliche and preachy to me. But the sound of everything here is great. And number 51, the last one that I'm going to mention in this video, talking through my number 51 through 100. You can watch my other video, which maybe I'll put a link somewhere around here to find out my top 50. I posted that a little while back, and this is just kind of a bonus video added on top of that. But my favorite one in this list is my number 51 album of the year, just barely missed. I was really considering putting it in my top 50. It's from Sylvaine, and the album's called Nova. This is atmospheric post-black metal with post-rock and shoegaze influences. It's got female vocals. It's her fourth album. Beautiful atmospheric music, a lot of clean singing, but she also does black metal shrieks. And I think if you like the Rollo Tomasi release from this year, you might like this, even though they're different genres. They both start out with soft songs and lull you into a false sense of security, like you're listening to a synth pop album, and then they unleash the beast and they have these heavy, harsh vocals. Yeah, it's almost hard to believe this album by Sylvaine didn't make my top 50 of the year, but there's just so much great stuff. And this one is the one that I most regret not including in my top 50. So it's really great. Check it out. And that's it for my number 51 to number 100. Hope you enjoyed the list and found something new to listen to on here. Until next time, peace out.